We are just hours now until the big CNN debate live from the Brooklyn Navy Yard. Bernie Sanders, Hillary Clinton face off at this event 9 p.m. tonight.
To find out what voters should watch for in tonight's big debate, let's bring in CNN political analyst and author of How's Your Faith, David Gregory. He's joining us now. So, David, what is the number one thing? You're talking about tone. Everybody has kind of said tone is going to matter, but what are you going to be watching for in the tone tonight?
Well, you want to see how both of them interact with each other. It's gotten a little bit testy, nothing by Republican standards on the Democratic side, but it's gotten more personal, it's gotten more contentious, not just about issues, but about qualifications, about temperament, about who's really prepared for the job. So I really look to see how they both treat each other. Does Hillary Clinton focus on Bernie Sanders? Does she want to, in effect, take him down a notch in the eyes of perhaps his supporters or the broader Democratic electorate? That's important because this is a closed primary, so he has got to turn out a lot of Democrats on Tuesday to do well here in New York. Can she kind of cut him off at the pass there by going after a lack of specificity on issues, a lack of understanding of more complexities on issues in public policy that she talks about? Or does she want to just focus on the Republicans and play more rope-a-dope with him, since he is looking for the fight here? This is oxygen for him. This gives him a shot at the title when he's far down in the polls here in New York.
He has a different choice to make, though, too, doesn't he? I mean, he has to choose how he engages here. He has to choose how badly he wants to try to win this, if that means trying to go after Hillary very, very hard.
I totally agree with that. And I think, you know, I would temper what I just said by saying what she always has to keep in mind is that a lot of these Sanders supporters, a lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them are not necessarily anti-Hillary. They may vote for her in the end. You know, I don't think they have anywhere else to go naturally politically. They may be holding their nose a bit, but they like Sanders as an alternative, as a movement politician, as a populist, etc. She wants to make sure to keep those progressives in the fold, to make sure that they turn out and that they vote for her enthusiastically in the fall. But for him, I think you're right, John. I mean, I think this is an opportunity to say, look, he's up against a wall a little bit here. He has got to show that he can grow his portion of the electorate in a bigger, more diverse state like New York. With a higher minority population, he's got to show that he's got some game beyond whiter states, more progressive states. And to do that, he may have to go after her a little bit more toughly, aggressively about honesty and trustworthiness, which is a liability for her, about taking money from Wall Street, those areas where he wants to keep pushing to show that he may have some advantage.
Absolutely. David Gregory, great to see you, David. A lot to watch for tonight. He lays it up perfectly, as always. We are at the top of the hour, everyone. Watch this.
Fame or attention? That could drive America down into a ditch.
They're acting like union boss thugs.
The system, folks, is rigged.
It's just not the case. The rules have been set.
The battle in Brooklyn just hours away.
Under the bright spotlight and scrutiny here in New York, Senator Sanders has had trouble answering questions.
I believe we're going to win here in New York City.
Hello, everyone. I'm still Kate Baldwin.
I'm John Berman. We are live in Brooklyn, New York, at the site of tonight's CNN Democratic presidential debate. This is the Brooklyn Navy Yard. New York, New York, start spreading the news. Bernie Sanders, Hillary Clinton, they want to wake up in a city with lots of delegates.
Good job.
This is where Bernie Sanders was born and raised. This is where Hillary Clinton's campaign is based. And this is where a debate in less than 9 hours, 8 hours and 57 minutes to be exact. That debate could alter the course of this campaign.
It will be the final debate between the two before the critical New York primary. We'll see if they hold any other debates. That's still up in the air. And it could be the crescendo of what has become an increasingly testy, chippy campaign between these two. The Clinton win would push her closer to the nomination and allow her to focus more on her potential foe in the fall. A Sanders win would be very big and would be a psychological blow to the Clinton campaign and could help him convince superdelegates that he can wear Clinton down. Let's go straight, though, to Chris Freites. He is inside the debate hall, a beautiful debate hall, as it always is. Chris Freites, what are you looking at?
Hey, Kate and John. Well, I'll tell you, we're just hours away from this battle in Brooklyn, and I am standing here where Secretary Clinton and Senator Sanders are going to go head-to-head for the first time in more than a month. Of course, a little hometown pride on the line here as well. Secretary Clinton represented New York for many years in the Senate, and her campaign headquarters for president just up the street here. And Senator Sanders, of course, born and raised here in Brooklyn. Now, take a little walk with me. I want to show you just how impressive this setup is. I will walk over to where Wolf Blitzer is going to be questioning these candidates. This is his podium. And then if you take a look to his right here, we'll have CNN's Dana Bash and Errol Lewis. And just to give you some sense of what a transformation we've had here in the Brooklyn Navy Yard, this building is now a conservancy. It used to be a place where they built battleships. I want to show a picture that we have, a still picture of this very building. They built the USS Missouri, the USS Arizona here. Both of those battleships, of course, in Pearl Harbor. So we're going to a place where they used to build battleships to have a debate over who should be our next commander-in-chief, John and Kate.
Chris Freitz, thank you so much, Chris. We'll check back in with you.
All right, joining us by telephone right now is a man working for Bernie Sanders, his campaign manager, who just stepped out of debate prep to talk to us by phone, Jeff Weaver. Jeff, thank you so much for being with us. You've been in the room while the preparations are going on. Take us inside that room. What has debate prep been like, and what kind of night are you preparing for exactly?
Well, I don't want to give out too many state secrets here, John, but let me just say this. I think this debate is going to be a great opportunity to highlight the very real policy differences between Secretary Clinton and Senator Sanders, clearly on issues of campaign finance, the fact that he gets his money in amounts averaging $27 apiece from millions of people versus a campaign that is funded by a lot of special interests of Wall Street, pharmaceutical companies, and others. That's only one issue. The issue of fracking and how we're going to stop this sort of disastrous practice that pollutes water and air in this country. And on trade, you know, the Secretary Clinton has supported almost all these disastrous trade deals, which have sent millions of our jobs overseas. Bernie Sanders has been a staunch opponent of all of these deals. Those are just a few of the issues that I'm confident will come up tonight.
Those are very important issues in the campaign, very important issues, and not surprisingly, here in New York. Jeff, when it comes to the tone tonight, that's what a lot of folks are talking about. What is the tone going to be like between these two? Because it is definitely kind of ebbed and flowed if it's gotten nasty and then dialed back over the past week. Are you guys going to be on offense or defense? What kind of tone do you want to set tonight?
Well, I think the tone that you're going to hear from Senator Sanders is a confident tone, talking about the issues that he knows are going to resonate with voters here in New York, that have resonated with voters all across this country. So, you know, in terms of setting forth a policy agenda for America that is going to work for middle class and working class people, I think he's going to be on the offense. But that's on substance. You know, he has run a campaign based on substance, on issues, on real policy differences with the secretary, and I think that's where the focus is going to be. But he certainly is going to be out front with his agenda.
The wife of Mayor Bill de Blasio, who's supporting Hillary Clinton, Charlie McRae, she says that Bernie Sanders is getting desperate in this campaign. Your response?
Well, look, there's nothing desperate about a campaign that's won 8 of the last 9 contests, that has cut Secretary Clinton's pledged delegate lead by a third in just a few weeks, that is gaining momentum, had a rally last night here in New York with over 27,000 people. I don't know what the campaign would have to be desperate about. I mean, this is a campaign clearly on the move. The senator has the momentum. I think he's going to do very well in New York here on Tuesday. So, you know, he is pushing forward with the campaign that he has run from the beginning, a campaign that's focused around the needs of ordinary people and how we're going to transform this country so that, you know, the needs of ordinary people come before the special interests.
About last night, real quick, the comment coming from Bernie Sanders supporter Paul Song. I know you guys know about it because Bernie Sanders spoke out against it, tweeting that he thought the comment when he said electing corporate Democratic whores, Bernie tweeted out that he thought it was inappropriate and insensitive. Earlier on our show, Robbie Mook, Hillary's campaign manager, he said that he was very happy that you guys spoke out against it, but he also seemed to suggest that you guys took quite a while and that you didn't apologize or speak out against it fast enough.
Well, I'm sorry Robbie feels that way. But listen, the senator has spoken on it. The campaign has spoken on it. All campaigns have surrogates. They get up and sometimes they say things that you wish they hadn't said. It was an insensitive remark. It was an inappropriate remark. There's certainly no place for that kind of language in the political dialogue in this country, no matter who it comes from. And, I think the senator has been very clear on that. So I'm sorry it wasn't quite fast enough for Robbie Mook, but I think the senator has been clear. And, of course, Robbie Mook would rather talk about this. Talk about one person at the rally rather than the other 27,000 people who showed up at that rally, versus the rather small and modest rally that the secretary was holding at the same time uptown.
Jeff, last question here. You're 12 points down in New York, even if it's only 10 points down in New York. The math says you need to win more than 50% of the rest of the delegates to secure the nomination, maybe 55, 56% of the delegates to win the nomination. If you lose New York, how does the math work out for you? I mean, if you lose New York, can you win the nomination?
Oh, absolutely. Look, we have to clearly win most states going forward, but we don't have to win all states. We have mapped out internally a path to getting more pledged delegates by the end of this process than Secretary Clinton, and it does not require us to win every single state. So he's going to do very well. As you know, it's a proportional system. So even if you come very close, you basically split the delegate. So there's a lot of states coming up. He's going to do very well in New York. He may very well win New York. The kind of enthusiasm you saw last night in the streets of New York was, I think, incredible. I think everybody who was there. Your colleague Chris Cuomo was there. I mean, it was an incredible experience. A lot of people who've been in politics for a long time in New York can't remember anything like it. So I think that there is a lot of momentum behind Senator Sanders and may well push him over the top. But we're certainly going to do very well regardless, and we are certainly on a path to the nomination.
All right, Jeff Weaver, thanks for calling in. Get back into debate prep. Senator Sanders clearly missing you inside.
And then come back out and call us and tell us exactly what happened. That's how
I'll give you the whole, game plan.
Thank you so much, Jeff. All right, so the Democratic presidential debate will be live tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern, right where we are, only on CNN. Let's pivot right now to the Republican race for the White House right now. Senator Cruz unleashing on the Trump campaign after it accused Cruz's team of using Gestapo tactics in securing delegates. Listen to how Ted Cruz responded last night on CNN.
It is bizarre. Donald and his team, it's almost like they are subjects in a clinical course on psychology. There are all sorts of different behaviors they display, but one of them is projection. That the conduct they do, regularly they accuse everyone else of doing. So literally in the last few weeks, Donald's team, Roger Stone, his chief political advisor, was threatening to out the hotel rooms of delegates who dared to cross Trump so they could be intimidated. They're acting like union boss thugs. Donald has a hard ceiling in most states of about 35 or 40%. So he did well early in the race when there were 16 other candidates because all of the other votes were dispersed. Now that the field has narrowed, what we're seeing is that Republicans are uniting behind our campaign, and we're beating them over and over and over again.
All right, joining us now, Kayleigh McEnany, CNN political commentator and a Donald Trump supporter. Also with us, Amanda Carpenter, CNN political commentator, former communications director for Senator Ted Cruz, Julian Zelzer, historian and professor at Princeton University, and Steve Lonegan, a New Jersey state director for the Cruz campaign and former U.S. Senate candidate. Steve, I'll start with you. We have all of New Jersey represented here on our right.
Yeah, we do.
Steve, let me start with you. We just heard from Ted Cruz talk about the Donald Trump ceiling. He's got a ceiling of about 35%. Well, it's interesting. We're here in New York here where Donald Trump could break 50%. He's anywhere between 50 to 60% in the polls here. So is he shattering that ceiling?
Well, if he doesn't get over 50%, he needs to drop out of the race. But, John, in the beginning, you said that this debate tonight could be a game changer for the Democrat Party. And remarkable to me is that Democrats across this country are going to get to see their two top candidates debate the issues that are important to Democrats. Now, I don't support those issues of more spending and more debt and more big government. However, on the Republican side, Republicans are being denied the opportunity to see their top candidates debate these issues in depth because Donald Trump is scared to death of Ted Cruz. He will not debate the issues. Senator Cruz wants to talk about the issues of jobs, freedom, and security in depth and explain his policies. And Donald Trump has to explain why he thinks it's the role of government to deliver education and health care. Not having this debate and a Republican debate would be a game changer in the Republican Party as well. They're denies the Republican Party its rights to see their candidates.
Kayleigh, why not debate?
Well, we've had more than a dozen debates so far, and I hope you don't just cabin your criticism to Donald Trump and would also give that same criticism to Ronald Reagan, who, when he was the presumptive frontrunner, decided to forego debates altogether. So if you're going to criticize Donald on that, you might as well criticize Ronald Reagan on that. And to say that Donald Trump has a ceiling is quite frankly ridiculous when you consider the fact that Donald Trump is ahead by 2 million votes. So if Donald Trump has a ceiling of 40%, Ted Cruz has one of lower than 30%. I'd venture to say around 20%. So the ceilings notion is really a feigned argument coming from a campaign that's losing by more than 2 million voters.
There's one event that happened this week, and especially as we're in this setting where great American battleships were built, that shows why we need a Republican debate. American military servicemen were buzzed by a Russian jet in the Baltic this week. They were conducting drills with our allies in Poland. Donald Trump has said he doesn't view Russia as a threat. He wants to scale back our alliances with NATO, with our allies. He's been proven wrong on that. He should be questioned on it in a debate format because these are critical matters of importance to our national security, not only for us, but for our allies.
Steve, Professor, you're a historian, so I can quote Thucydides. My favorite quote for Thucydides, which is, "The strong do as they will, and the weak suffer as they must." The strong in this case, Donald Trump, is the front runner. Why would he debate?
Right. At this point, he wants to sit tight, and he doesn't want to expose himself during a debate to some of the shots that he took. So he just doesn't have a lot of incentive, and I don't think the good of the party is as much on his mind as the good of his candidacy. And I don't mean that meanly. That is how a strategic thinker thinks. But what we're entering to is a debate over the legitimacy of these candidates. Both sides are doing it. And I think that's going to be the main issue that we actually hear about, whether it's about Cruz turning delegates in unfair ways or it's about Trump kind of using his muscle more like a mafioso than a politician. I think this is what we're in store for the next week or so.
Listen, Hillary Clinton is clearly the front runner too, and she's not afraid to debate Bernie Sanders. So I don't understand what Donald Trump's fear is. Here's the problem, and I calculated that in a 2-minute debate segment, Donald Trump would have to screech out, "We're going to build a wall, we're going to make America great again," about 42 times. And about the 12th time, people say, "Where's the substance?" He has no substance. Donald Trump cannot talk about his policies in more than 140 characters, and that's not going to satisfy Republican voters.
Well, the American people
disagree. One second, Kayleigh. Steve, here's the thing. In New York, though, Donald Trump is very far ahead. Your candidate is in third at this moment. I mean, when you look, with Cruz running third right now in a state that has become very important in this primary, I mean, what's a win for you guys?
Kate, Ted Cruz has this remarkable ability to exceed expectations. I'm not going to say he's going to win New York.
Okay,
but Donald Trump better go over 50%. That's a loss for him.
What about Cruz? What does Cruz need to do?
He needs to pull out delegates.
Any delegate breakfast in the morning
is a victory. Is a victory. If Donald Trump has said he's going to get all 95 delegates, he better get all 95 delegates, because if Ted Cruz walks out of here with 2 delegates, Donald Trump lost.
Kelly, I want to give you an opportunity to respond to that. Noting the New Jersey primary, Steve's home state here, is coming up on June 7th as well. How's Donald Trump going to do there?
Sure, and that's a winner-take-all. Donald Trump will win that as well. He's going to win. Yes, he is. He's going to win the entirety of the Northeast, I would argue. California is looking good for him. Pennsylvania is great. He has a very friendly map ahead, and I think he will reach 1237. And this idea that Donald Trump hasn't answered questions, that is a ridiculous idea, because he has made himself more available to media than any candidate in modern history. When Anderson Cooper said 2 town halls ago to Ted Cruz, "I've begged you to come on this show. You won't do it." That is the truth. Hillary Clinton's refrained from going on certain news stations. Donald Trump has gone on every news station. He sat there with Chris Matthews for an hour, a guy not friendly to the conservative cause at all. He has answered every question, the hardest questions, far harder questions than Ted Cruz has ever answered.
I think the outcome of the primaries will dictate whether he has a debate or not. There's no way to convince a front runner to debate because it's not always in their interest. This is not distinct or unique to Donald Trump. But if he loses, if all of a sudden Cruz is doing better, my guess is Donald Trump will be ready to appear on the CNN or whatever channel station.
Sadly, I think this debate is over, Steve. Steve,
for this moment.
Amanda, Kayleigh, thanks so much for being here with us. We will do this debate again, though. There are multiple more to come. Appreciate
every
you being
day.
Here.
It's like Christmas for us.
All right, Donald Trump. He may be focused on bashing the establishment, bashing Washington, but today, his campaign is on Capitol Hill, rubbing shoulders with lawmakers. What are they trying to do, and what have they told people behind closed doors? We'll tell you next.
Live right now to Midtown Manhattan, where Bernie Sanders is speaking before the National Action Network, Al Sharpton's National Action Network. Let's listen in.
At a time when not a lot of truth is being told. So here are some of the truths that we need to be talking about. Number one, in this room, throughout this country, men and women have put their lives on the line to defend American democracy. Here is the truth. In many ways, the foundations of American democracy today are being undermined by disastrous campaign finance laws, Citizens United Supreme Court decision, and by voter suppression among Republican governors all over this country. So let us be clear. Truth number one is democracy means one person, one vote. You want to vote for me? Love to have it. You want to vote against me? That's called democracy. Billionaires who represent the wealthy and the powerful should not be about buying elections. That's why we're going to overturn Citizens United. When billionaires buy elections, that's called oligarchy, not democracy. Number two, and I know the National Action Network has been fighting this tooth and nail, and that is we have a level of Republican voter suppression that is absolutely outrageous. You would have thought that after all we have gone through as a country to make sure that people have the right to vote, regardless of the color of their skin, that these Republican governors would show some mercy and not try to bring us back to Jim Crow days. The idea that they are passing laws restricting the right to vote, making it harder for people to vote, poor people, old people, people of color, that is moving in exactly the wrong way. Now, I see my old friend Reverend Jackson here. He has an idea. Others have a different idea. But what we all agree on is at the end of the day, in America, if you are 18 years of age and you're an American citizen, you have the right to vote. Maybe we do it through a constitutional amendment. Maybe we do it in another way. But I'm tired of people figuring out ways to shrink the voter turnout. We've got to expand the voter turnout. Number two, I am embarrassed to have to admit this, but I am old enough to have been at the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom. I was there with Dr. King. Dates me, but I was there. But I want everybody to remember what I know you all know. The name of that march, it's not just the March on Washington, it was the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom, all right, Reverend Sharpton?
I wasn't there, but you right.
He's a kid. He's a good kid. He's growing. He's learning. Jobs and freedom. And what Dr. King understood is, of course, you have to destroy segregation. Of course, you have to open up opportunity for all people. But then he said, what does it matter if you desegregate a lunch counter, but you don't have the money to buy the damn hamburger? And this is what he said back in the 1960s. And it's sad to remember how much distance we still have to go. This is Dr. King. He said, the other America, he talked about two Americas, he says the other America was plagued by, quote, inadequate, substandard, and often dilapidated housing conditions. Well, guess what? I was in Baltimore, Maryland, a few months ago in a community where so many of the homes were boarded up. I've been in communities all over this country where gentrification is destroying neighborhoods. I have been in communities where people are paying 50, 60% of their limited incomes in housing. We have all been in communities where too many people are sleeping out on the street. Dr. King talks about...
Listening to Bernie Sanders speaking in Midtown Manhattan to the National Action Network. This is Al Sharpton's group there. Bernie Sanders also acknowledging Reverend Jesse Jackson, who is in the audience today, a man he endorsed when he ran for president twice in the 1980s. He's talking about voting rights and voter registration. He called out Republican governors who he said wanted to take the country back to Jim Crow days by preventing people from voting. Pretty strong words there from Bernie Sanders.
Bernie Sanders speaking before this convention today. Hillary Clinton spoke before this group yesterday. Let's bring in Donna Brazile to talk about the significance of this and the timing of this, of course. So, Donna, Bernie Sanders making his pitch, hitting on his points, trying to make inroads with African-American voters. He's struggled with this to this point. Hillary Clinton making her pitch yesterday. Why? This is important, and this is important before the New York primary.
Right. Well, there's no question that the African-American vote is very important to not just the Democratic Party, but it's important to winning the White House in the fall. Bernie Sanders has a very good relationship with African-American leaders and African-American voters. It's just that Hillary Clinton has what I call strong bonds of support. These are individuals who have not only been supportive of the Clinton candidates, the Clinton campaign, the Clinton presidency, but she has deep relationships that go back 30, 40 years. And so I'm enjoying the competition now with both Senator Sanders and Secretary Clinton going out there, energizing young people, especially young African Americans, Hispanics, because they need their votes not just in this primary season, but also in the fall.
Is Bernie Sanders making meaningful gains, as far as you can tell, among African American voters? The campaign points to young voters and say that's, you know, they're doing well with young African Americans. But is it enough?
He started with 3%. I mean, when you start with 3% with Hispanics or, 5% with African Americans and you've grown your support, of course it takes time to nurture and to court these voters. But the truth is, he's out there. He's not taking these voters for granted. He wants their support. And today, this is a great opportunity for him to ask for their help.
Sure also looks like Hillary Clinton isn't taking these voters for granted either.
No.
I mean, she's not only speaking before Al Sharpton's group yesterday, but then, hitting up half a dozen churches with Bill Clinton over on Sunday. Is support among African Americans in question for Hillary Clinton?
Well, no, it's not in question, but she has to maximize turnout. She needs a strong turnout on Tuesday in order to not just win the New York primary, but to get the kind of delegate lead that, to maintain the delegate lead that she has, that's been consistent along the way. But I just want to say something, because this is a matter of pride. African-American women, when you look at every demographic group in the country, we have the highest voter registration and voter participation of any Americans in the country. So I take personal pride in that. But more importantly, what Secretary Clinton is trying to do is to drive turnout. You want to know where you can find black women on a Sunday, and this is not a stereotype. You can find us in church. And on Saturday, we get our hair done, and we go back to work on Monday. So she's doing what I think it takes to get not just the strong support of African Americans and Hispanics and others, but to also remind them that she has strong, faithful roots. And she wants to be able to remind people of the work that she's done for civil rights and equal rights across the country.
Donna Brazile, great to have you here with us in Brooklyn.
Always.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, Donna.
All right, what is Donald Trump and his campaign? What are they up to today? Well, he's got staffers up on Capitol Hill behind closed doors with lawmakers. We're going to hear from one of those people just briefed by the Trump campaign. What are they saying, and when are they saying they will lock up the nomination?